Hey gang, so today I'm doing a video on something I got in a trade, and it was something I wanted to try for a bit. I have had a TopD before, and I'll put the link up here somewhere, the TopD. At the time, I really liked it when I got it. It felt really good, and then I got kind of tired of it, like we all do. We get tired of our fidgets, so I sold it. And the minute you sell something, you kind of wish you had it back, right? I guess it's sort of like breaking up with somebody sometimes. If it was a good relationship, not a bad one. When it's a bad one, you want nothing to do with them. This, though, is the TopD in Peak. And I got this in a trade, and I was really curious to see if I would like it or not. And guess what? I don't. The TopD. Let's go. Okay, so here we are with the TopD. Now, like I said in the intro, not a fan. I will go through why I'm not a fan, but honestly, there's a bunch of stuff about this one that I'm really not crazy about. One, I don't like Peak. That's just the way it is. It's too light. It has no weight in it, and for something like this that requires so much manipulation with your fingers, I find that lack of weight really makes it challenging to move around, because it's literally all your fingers are engaged, or at least like a lot of them, right? When you're using this, it's not like just like a simple slider where you can kind of push up and down. I mean, it is when you're doing the sliding part, that totally fine. That's not a big deal. Although again, too light for me. But the spin and stuff, when you have to start really manipulating, there's a lot of points of contact going on, and without that extra weight of the metal, I personally don't like it. This is not for me. When something's all Peak like this, I've realized I don't like it. I also don't really like the sound or the feeling of Peak on a mechanical slider, at least with the ball kind of scraping along against the Peak ridges. Really, this, again, just not for me. I know there are people out there that love Peak, and that is awesome. Everybody's allowed to like their own thing. I just do not like Peak. And it took this for me to find out, for me to realize that. So we're going to open it up. Let's have a look. The person I traded with actually shipped it with the little torque wrench, extra balls, an extra spring, and some Loctite. And at first I wasn't really sure what the Loctite was for. I know now. Now, I haven't applied any Loctite to this yet because I didn't want to, I didn't want to change up the review at all with this thing sort of already on, if the screws were already kind of had Loctite on them. Come on, Sean, get it together. Think what you're saying. But I will tell you, the Loctite goes on the middle post, which has already loosened up on me quite a bit, and I've had to take it apart and tighten it. If this was mine, if I was keeping this, I would absolutely Loctite, blue Loctite on that middle post for sure. But I plan on trading this right after this review to really whoever wants to trade. This is, I'm going to leave it as is. I don't want to ever lock anything down. I mean, that's just when you're trading with somebody else, you want to leave this as open as possible. And the last thing you want to do is Loctite everything so that they're forced to deal with my decisions. Is that a nice way to say it? I think so. So let's look at taking this thing apart. Now, the first thing I'm going to show you is the post. Now, I had a TopD, and I've already taken apart a TopD before. I had the titanium blue, which I actually really liked. But again, like I said in the intro, I just kind of got bored of it. A lot of fidgets are fun at first, and then we just get bored and we want to move on to the new clicky, shiny thing. So I traded it, I sold it. As I keep saying, that's the only way to kind of keep a channel like this going is if you move the products around. You don't hold on to everything, because then it just keeps costing you money for new stuff. So, I have to. That's why this one's going to be up for trade. Absolutely, please trade. So we have our post. Now this pin right in here, I found got loose on me, and yeah, it was even a tiny bit loose again. And that comes from the fact that the pin itself, here, we'll take it out. I'm going to assume there are some of you out there who have never seen a TopD. So let's take this completely apart. So what we have is just a regular pin, a regular screw, and then we have this other, the housing of it, and I don't know if I can get in close enough on this, but let's see, can I stay in focus? As we can see, maybe you can see there are squared off edges, right? Top and bottom, and those squared off edges run along this squared off track. And then what happens is when you get to the middle, you can turn it and then run it down the middle again. What you cannot do is turn it in the middle of the track. That really starts to lead to problems. If you try to do that, you end up wearing down the track on the inside. It's really not supposed to turn that way. So turns, the circle, you can run it down, turns. So you can also turn it and run it sideways. So you can run it back and forth. So, I mean, it's definitely fun, but just in the peak, I'm not crazy about it. But anyways, blah, blah, blah. Stop talking about that. So here we have the grooves. Now you can see how everything's sort of, there are these little indentations taken out. That's not like broken or anything. That's because these balls run along the grooves, right? That's what makes this sound. And when the post turns, you can run it this way. So that's all that's happening. That's what the sound is, right? It's running along these balls. Now, of course, we can also change these balls out for the steel balls. I think these are ceramic, the black ones. I can't say for sure, but you know, they're pretty common. You can get two different sounds out of them. I find in the peak though, I've tried both. I don't really hear a whole lot of difference. So when we put this back in, okay, and we get our one screw ready. And we line it up with our hole. Now this is the magnetic side of it. There we go. The magnetic part of it just means like the screw sticks to the torque wrench, which sometimes is great for getting the screw out. It's annoying when you're first trying to set your screw. Okay, so get that in there nice and tight. I'd say firm tight, not like crazy ridiculous tight. But see, now you can see it in action. So the balls slide against here, and then we can turn it and slide it this way. And that's literally all the sound is. So let's put the top on. Now to screw it back in, you have to kind of rotate it part way and expose it. So let's get that in here. Okay, so now we have our little screw holes in here. So let's look at the other side for a second, just to see what's keeping the balls in place. This is a part that I was not impressed by, and I'm trying to remember if it was like that on the original. Like this is a 2.0, I think, where the track can kind of turn in both directions like that. Like it can, let me get this off for a second, where, you know, you can turn this way, you can slide it this way, and you can slide it up and down, whereas the old one you could only sort of slide in one direction. So here's what I'm going to do. This, usually you lift the lid off. In this case though, I want to lift the whole thing off because the balls sit in the springs like this. You can see this one's stuck inside. Let's give it a little, come on. Get out. There. Now, the issue here that I don't like is that, so you can see a ball sits, oh, I knew that wasn't going to work, but the ball sits on these springs, right? And then that's what causes that little bounce. That's what lets the ball kind of bounce up and down. The issue is that I don't like is there's no there's no place for the spring. This whole inside is just flat. So what you end up doing is you kind of have to load it up in reverse, right? So let's see, let's get this ball. So we load here. So you load the balls first, and then you have to put the springs in. But like the ice cream cone, right? These springs are kind of like an ice cream cone or a pyramid, and the small part has to connect with the ball because that's what forces it to push against the spring. So same with the other side. Where did I put that? There we go. Same with the other side. Now you can even see here though, there isn't that much force pushing against the springs because the springs don't actually sit very far out from the base. Like now, of course, when the top lid pushes on the spring, right, that's when we get more tension, but you're still not getting, oh, get back in there. You're still not getting a huge amount. So sometimes, I know that some people will take their springs and stretch them to add a little more force. So you can do that. I'm allowing it. You can do that. So you can see the balls go in, the springs go in. We make sure the balls are kind of pointing through on the other side. Nothing weird's going on. And then we put our top on. So, and again, I know that once this lid is on here, the springs are basically flush. But I don't know, it's just something, but I just wish there was something to kind of keep the springs in place a little bit. Maybe it's not a big deal, maybe it doesn't matter, but it stood out when I did it the first time. It stood out to me. And there we go. So now they're flat. Put one. Now this is the other thing too, I don't ever really feel confident tightening a screw into peak. I just don't. The threads are peak, everything's peak, and I know peak is a pretty dense material, like pretty strong. It just, I don't know, there's something about it I do not like. And that's it, and it's together. And then remember, you can only really turn it at the height of the turn. So you have to push all the way to the other side so that the post can travel to that circular opening, which allows it to turn. Because remember, once it's in the middle groove, you can't and should not be trying to turn this. I mean, if you really wanted to, you could, but it's not meant to do that. It's really meant to turn once against the circle. And frankly, if you try to turn it when you're midway, you will damage the post and you'll damage the track. Because again, the track is like, it's not metal. So you can do this, then we can also do this little zipper. So like I said, it's just not, it's not something I like. This is not something I would keep. I traded something for it and that's fine because I actually preferred what I traded for it. But, you know, I still get a review out of this and now I know, I don't like peak. So, and again, I would absolutely recommend tightening that post with Loctite once it's in there because it loosens up pretty quick. Now, if you're familiar or comfortable with Loctite, you know, it's not really a big deal. So I am going to put this in a box and which box? I'm going to put this in the box it came from. I'm going to put it in here with the tools and it is going to stay there until somebody wants to trade or buy, I guess. I mean, trade is kind of, it's easier. But yeah, I don't want it. So if you want it, let me know. Okay, gang, thanks for watching.